just finished decorating my sketchbook. There was a big grease stain here that was totally bothering me. Anyways, I have so much stationery that I just hoard and never use. So I ripped out this little Barber Papa. You remember those guys? And now it's prettier.
So today I just decided to do a bit of doodling in my sketchbook. I don't really have a plan. I'm just gonna play around with a few things and see what happens. So I'm just flipping through my sketchbook here. There's a few different things just to show you guys the way I use it and, you know, kind of like the variety of things that go in there. I tend to do studies and just idea jamming, and once in a while I'll do like kind of a real illustration. You know, there's some swatch pages in there, a few draw it in your styles, and a couple of pieces from Mermaid. If you want to see some close-ups of those, I post them on my Instagram. And yeah, so here's the fresh page.
This is a little travel palette that I made for when I am working, because I go to a different city when I'm working. And it has a mixed bag of paints in there. These are two of my favorites. They're both from Lucas. And yeah, I'll play around with this and maybe mix in some, it's poster paint, but it's pretty much gouache.
So I'm using my Prisma Colerase pencil in rose, I believe. It's my favorite. I really like these pencils. I use them all the time, and I always have backups. I also like the brown and indigo. I haven't tried too many other ones. I think I have a carmine or something, but they're pretty inexpensive and they're erasable, and you can get them in cool colors. So if you're anything like me, when you're just not in the mindset, it's really hard to start, and you often make a blunder the first time you put something down on the paper, and that's okay. It happens all the time. It's sort of like warming up, and I usually just like let it slide. The first lines are the ugliest, and I'll often just jump over to something else and then come back to it later. What often happens when I'm just gonna kind of doodle around in my sketchbook is that I'll start with some sort of little animal character, because it's kind of my thing, and then just do variations on that theme. So today it looks like I'm into frogs. It happened to be leap day that day, and I just went with it. Did a bunch of little frog characters, and eventually a few monkeys joined in. But I highly recommend kind of like giving yourself a little theme to start off with. You know, you can always expand on it later if you want to, or bring in new ideas, but it kind of gives you like a starting point, which is often the hardest thing to do, especially if you don't have any ideas about what you wanted to do. So if you just kind of like say, today I'm drawing butterflies, and then you start, maybe you'll end up painting flowers or something, but it gets you going at least. So I'm just doing some loose pencil lines, and I'm not trying to refine any drawing. They're just like really loose ideas. And I'm gonna go in at the end with pencil crayon and do kind of like line work at the end. But these are just doodles. They're just like silly fun. And since I'm painting in a multimedia sketchbook, the paper's not going to take too many layers. It's going to start to crinkle and it'll start to pill eventually. Pilling is like when the paper starts to kind of lose its integrity and it'll start to like get almost like crumbly and peel apart. You know, feel like you get a paper too wet, like a regular piece of paper, that sort of thing. Any paper will do that eventually if you take it to its limits. And watercolor paper is stronger and thicker and can take more water damage. So other kinds of papers don't necessarily have that quality. But I do find it fun to paint on multimedia paper because I think mostly I just don't have that pressure of like, oh, this is nice paper and I have to do something nice on it. It tends to be cheap and I can just play, and yeah. Just the idea of that is relaxing to me. It's sort of like sometimes when I'm gonna do studies, I'll like do it on lined paper just because I don't know, subconsciously it's like the value of the paper goes down, and so it's like, ah, it's fine, you're just fooling around in here anyways. And often that relieves the tension and you can get some good stuff out of there. And if you're doing exercises, the point is to like learn anyways, so it doesn't have to be a showpiece, although that could be a thing if you do lined paper. Just like that's your thing, you draw lined paper, you know. Anyhow, I'm gonna go in with like just a base color, and then I'll probably add sort of some darks and some like maybe little spots of color, and then maybe some little accents here and there, but I mean I'll probably only give it like 2 or 3 passes of color because, well, first of all, this is like supposed to be something quick and fun, and I also have that paper quality to think about. So those little pastel colors, like the peach and the pink that I got there, that was like highly mixed with the gouache. And you can use that poster paint, gouache, whatever, in a very similar fashion to watercolor, but you can also like just make it thicker and opaquer. And if you want to get pastel tones, it's like a nice way to get kind of pastel tones if you add a little bit of white. You could do it with white watercolor as well if you have some. I don't happen to have any white watercolor. None of my palettes came with it. But, or maybe I do 1 or 2. I just never noticed. Anyways, I always have gouache on my desk, and it's just like handy to add to things if you want to lighten them or make them more opaque. The poster paint that I'm using today is from Shinhan art. I've never used any of their other products. I know they make watercolor paint as well, and it's really quite affordable. I've seen them, like the tubes are quite cheap, and I don't remember what I paid for this little bottle of poster paint, but it was very inexpensive for the amount that you get. I mean, the price is probably comparable to like a, you know, artist grade watercolor tube, like $5 or something here in Canada, but this was like 3 or 4 times the amount, and it was quite affordable. It's much runnier than like regular gouache. It's sort of like milky and yogurty, but it's really the consistency that you would end up mixing gouache to like paint with anyways. You usually add some water and make it a little runnier, so I just find it like ready to go. And I haven't like really tried it too much other than in my sketchbook, but for these purposes it's great. I mean, and the price is great as well. So if you want to like experiment with gouache, I think that this might be a good brand to try. I don't know about the rest of their colors, so I can't attest to that, but you could also just like buy the white and use it like this, like mixing with watercolor. The only thing that I would mention, if you're going to be like using your watercolor pans and mixing with gouache, is to be careful not to mix the gouache into the pan. So bring the watercolor to the gouache or mix them on a palette. But I've had a couple of colors go moldy from like leaving gouache in there. So I don't know if that's like a thing, but I know that gouache can mold easily. So yeah, that's just something to keep in mind. So I don't know if you guys have tried using pencil crayons on your watercolor sketches or paintings, but if you haven't, I would highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun, and if you want to add a little bit of texture here and there, it's great for that, and also for adding small details or like accents and darks and stuff. I really love using these like fluorescent colors in my sketchbook. I don't know, it's fun, and it like helps things pop and stuff, and especially when I'm doing just these kinds of like spreads like this that are just I find them relaxing. I don't know, this is something that I'll do when I just want to kind of like zone out a little bit and have some fun, and this is how I have some fun in my sketchbook, and I recommend it. I like outlining things in different colors. It like helps break the shapes apart and also makes it more fun. I'll often like do multiple outlines with several different colors against each other. I just like the look of that, and that's another reason why I really dig that Prismacolor pencil, the pink one, because it's really bright, and sometimes I just like let those lines shine through, even with like more finished watercolor pieces. I just like the look of it. Anyhow, guys, I hope you enjoyed this play around in my sketchbook. Thanks for hanging out with me on this Saturday afternoon. I hope you had a fun leap day this year. And I want to know what kinds of stuff you do in your sketchbook. How do you use your sketchbook? And do you do similar things like this, like these kind of like doodly spreads? Yeah, let me know. And like and subscribe if you liked what you saw. I hope you'll join me for the next video. And until then, have fun in your sketchbook, guys. Bye!